play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. I'm Shane Stacks, your host. Thanks so much for joining us on this fine Saturday afternoon. If you're listening live via 96.5 FM in Little Rock on terrestrial radio, or if you're listening online via the 96.5 FM, theanswer.com website. If you're listening by podcast, delayed, or on Krypton Radio, well, welcome to you all the same. But for those of you that are listening live, you can always call in at 501-823-0965, or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. Got another great show for you today. Zach, is it nice outside or what? I mean, I'm a big winter guy, but I can't complain about today's weather. It's nice.
I haven't been outside yet.
It's nice.
I've been stuck here.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how nice it is. So I just want you to know that. I like winter to last a little while, but I can't complain about today's weather. So anyway, let's move on. Lovely day in Central Arkansas. Listen, folks, you can always find the notes for today's show on shaneplays.com. That's ShanePlays.com. That way, if you're like, hey, what was he talking about, or I want to know more, they're up right now, including links to a couple things I'm going to mention and the stuff involving our guests. Wellnot Studios is joining us again today, Joe and Hannah Williams, and they've got updates to their Serpent and the Staglands game, and then they're also announcing a new game called Copper Dreams, and we'll be talking about that. In fact, I wanted to definitely give them plenty of time, so we're not going to have a news segment today. So wanted to give them a little bit more time since they have a couple of different announcements. Folks, don't forget the show does go out as a podcast. You can find it on the blog at shaneplays.com, on iTunes and on Stitcher and other fine podcast directories. I also put it up on YouTube, so look for the Shane Plays YouTube channel at youtube.com/GoShanePlays. And finally, we are carried a week delay on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. Okay, I'm going to make a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to dive right into talking to the Wellnots themselves, Joe and Hannah Williams, the married game development team extraordinaire. Very nice folks. So enjoyed having them on last time. Enjoying talking. I'm looking forward to talking to them again today. But first, don't forget that our show sponsor, Troll Lord Games, that does Castles and Crusades, does have a Kickstarter going right now. And it's for 5th edition companions. So every class in 5th edition can now have a companion. So check out shaneplays.com for a link to that, but it's called 5th Edition Familiars and Companions is the name of the Kickstarter. And also, I got reached out to Jennifer Burns from up in Northwest Arkansas around Springdale reached out to me. There's a gaming event next weekend in Springdale, Arkansas, which is only a couple hours away from Central Arkansas. It's called Game It Forward. And it's March 4th through 5th, so it's next weekend. It's a gaming event in Springdale, Arkansas, and it's benefiting local teachers. So the money that's raised will help teachers with school supplies and that sort of thing. So it looks really neat. But the website, and you can find this at shaneplays.com on the show notes, is NWA as Northwest Arkansas, NWAGameItForward.com. Pardon me. It's games and demos from a game library of over 250 tabletop games and RPGs. There's going to be a silent auction, door prizes, a Game It Forward art show, food from local restaurants, a Splendor Tournament, Magic the Gathering IQ Tournament, Star Wars X-Wing Tournament, and more. So remember, that's NWAGameItForward.com. And Jennifer actually gave me some tickets to give away, Zach, which is cool. So I'm going to give away one set of tickets. She gave me 2 sets of 2 tickets. So 4 tickets total and 2 sets. I'm going to give one today away on the show. And then over the next week on social media, I'm going to give another one away. So folks, make sure to be hitting my Twitter, my Facebook, the YouTube and all that. Tumblr, I'm on Tumblr. You can go to shaneplays.com for all those links. But today, if you call in at 501-823-0965 anytime during the show, 501-823-0965, and you say, hey, I want some free tickets to the Game It Forward up in Springdale next weekend. Zach will take your name, where you're from, and your email address, and we email you the codes so you can go redeem those tickets. So anytime today, 501-823-0965, or you can tweet at Shane Plays, ShanePlays, and just say, I want those tickets. I want those tickets, dude, and I'll get them out to you. So anyway, that's what I got. No news segment today because, like I said, I want to give more time to the Wellnots. I did want to say, don't forget, this show is supported by both sponsors and Patreon. So if you as a listener would like to support for as little as $1 a show, you can go to patreon.com/ShanePlays. And don't forget our news team. Every dollar of support for Patreon, they get a penny an hour raise. So don't forget about that. But I'm giving them the day off, so it's so nice outside. Okay, let's move forward. Let's alter the laws of time and physics and move into my interview segment earlier than normal. Wellnot Joe and Wellnot Hannah, are you with me?
We're here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Shane.
Yeah, so glad to be talking to you guys again. Not only do I enjoy your game, Serpent and Staglands, but you're darn nice folks to boot. So my only beef with you is you've dropped so much great news in the last couple of days. It's hard to keep up with. So
we want to give you some homework before the show.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing a little bit. Yeah, just trying to get on top of things. But so what we're going to be talking about today, if I understand correctly, and I think I do if I did my homework right, is one. Well, actually, you have three things going on. One, you have a new game engine. Two, you have an expansion coming out for Serpent and the Staglands called The Fool's Banquet. And Serpent and the Staglands is, of course, your isometric sort of love letter to older artistic style RPGs that with a very unique, very cool feel. Very, very fun game. Doesn't hold your hand, which I like quite a bit. And then also you have a new game called Copper Dreams that you're announcing. I think that you're gonna do a Kickstarter for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, before we move forward in anything, I just want to say I'm not sure if I went into this last time, but I think, the more I play Serpent and the Staglands and I look at your artistic style and all of that, I don't think that you guys get enough credit that you're basically a two-person game development team. I mean, the quality of the games you're putting out, and when we talked last time, I think you said, y'all, you contract out very little of it, right? I mean, very little. So, I'm continually impressed with how much Serpent and the Staglands has to it, both artistically, story-wise, gameplay-wise, considering that just the two of you did it.
Oh, thanks so much for saying that, Shane.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think y'all. A lot of people say, "Hey, this game's kind of hard at the beginning," and I'm like, really? The two people did this game. It's amazing. But anyway, that's enough of me just being a fanboy. I'll have my journalistic objectivity for the rest of the show. So, but before I go into any questions or anything I may have, and I've got some, that I want to ask, and then I've got some stuff that people on RPG Codex have asked, and I'll try to get to that if at all possible. We've got some Codexers listening right now, and I told them that I welcome the heady blend of enthusiasm and devastation that they bring. So we love the Codex. So is there anything before I get into any questions or anything like that? Is there anything that y'all just want to mention about any of this news?
I think you covered it. The rule set that we made was for the expansion, for a Fool's Banquet, and then we really had some fun ideas for a sci-fi game, and that's kind of where we're going to do a smaller campaign for Copper Dreams, and we're going to have the Kickstarter, and hopefully we can make something a little bigger out of that too. Okay. But no, I think you pretty much covered.
Okay. Everything. Well, before we get into the new stuff, how has Serpent and the Staglands done now that it's been out for a few months?
I think it's done as well as we expected. It's been really great, and we're really happy with it.
Okay. We had kind of a minimum goal to be able to continue the company the way we wanted to, and we hit that, and we were able to move. We moved from Chicago to Seattle not too long ago, and things are progressing, and we're able to now take the time to do a lot of research and development for this new rule set that we made. we're now starting to talk about, and things are going well.
Okay, so when you, and like I said, be free to say, hey, that's, I don't want to go into that, but is the move to Seattle, does that have anything to do with the career? Is it better to be into Seattle for like game development, or is that just there are other reasons why y'all moved?
There were other reasons, namely weather and wanting to be near the mountains and near the coast, but there's definitely a bigger game development scene out here than in Chicago.
Okay. I think you're the first person I've ever heard that moved to Seattle for the weather. Because isn't it the joke that it's like always rainy and gray there?
It is. It's often overcast. It doesn't rain that hard, especially in Chicago when it rains. It usually, like all weather in the Midwest, it's extremes. And here, everything's pretty mild. And we like the rain, of course.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think I would actually like the climate of Seattle, but most people complain that it's always like cloudy there or something. So I don't know. Sure. I've never been there. My whole experience with Seattle. Remember that movie Singles? You ever seen Singles?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was Cameron Crowe, and it was like talking about these 20-somethings and the trying to find love in the grunge scene and all this stuff, and that's my whole experience with Seattle. So,
grunge of Seattle,
yeah. All right. But anyway, I'll move on because there's people want to hear about the game. Okay, well, I'm glad that I'm really glad that Serpent and the Staglands did well enough for y'all to continue. I hope that it's still selling. I mean, is there still like, I don't know how stuff happens when you release on Steam or whatever. Is there like a kind of a trickle of sales that keeps coming in after the initial sales period, or how does that work from a game company perspective? Do you kind of count on that?
When we first, it comes kind of in I guess chunks of sales. When we do go on sale, of course, on Steam, a lot of people seem to just wait for that. So we get boosts around then, but we're trying to not do that too often. And then not too long ago, we kind of breached the European market in a bigger way. GOG. We've been on a few sales on there, and that did extremely well recently, and that helped give us a couple extra months, which we're kind of still going by. But
it does trickle too, and more than we expected to, because we didn't really know what to expect on Steam and GOG.
And nobody really, we didn't have a lot of news announcements from a lot of sites talking about it. So we of course didn't really know what to expect, but I think this has pretty much all been word of mouth at this point, and it's been really nice that people must be talking about it. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you do get word of mouth. And I mean, I've definitely tried to help you word of mouth. The Codex, which is, one of the main game forums out there that, I think right now you guys, they're doing a Game of the Year voting. I don't know if you saw that, but I think you're actually doing pretty well in that. I saw a post that said you were like in the top 4 or something, but I haven't gone and looked at that. I voted for you. So,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I like your games, and any game that I can say what ho to a duck, and then the duck and then that duck ignores me. I mean, well, how could I not support that? So, but there's a lot to like about it, aesthetically and game wise. Now, the Codex, a lot of what I've seen asked from the Codex, is, and other people, there's some people that lament the fact that it wasn't turn-based combat. And I'm personally a turn-based combat person, but I can deal with real time with pause. But it seems like that this new game engine is you're at least going to set up your combat turn-based, and then it's going to unfold in real time. Am I understanding that right?
That's close. It is turn-based. It just has a time-based resolution. So if you were to aim a gun, you have to wait a few seconds based on your gun for that to play out. So it's non-reflexive still, but stuff can happen in between instead of happening instantaneously.
All right, help me. I want to make sure I'm understanding that. Is it when you say stuff can happen in between? Is it like you're choosing actions to happen and then they unfold in a stack, or is this stuff happening in real time? Like you're choosing your action and you're waiting for that action to kick off, and then somebody else can do something to you in real time.
That's the latter part of that.
Okay,
is correct. So you choose an action, and then that action takes a certain amount of time. To happen, or if you like throw something, that thrown object now kind of breaks the thing where you're taking your turn, and that's happening in real time. Other people are progressing to take their turns depending on where they rolled initiative, and then that grenade hits and then something happens, but things could have happened. Your target could have moved. They could have started shooting you. So it allows kind of for a dynamic field without requiring any kind of reflexive based movement and combat and stuff. So it's all turn based. It's just your turns take time, kind of.
Okay. Well, let's do this, since this is kind of leading into here anyway. Let's talk about the new engine. And then after the new engine, I want to talk about Serpent and Staglands expansion, the Fool's Banquet, which is using the new engine. So it's almost like a free sequel with a new engine. Even though I understand it's not it's a sequel, it's an expansion. We're getting it for free. The people who bought Serpent and Staglands, and then I want to talk about Copper Dreams. But let's go ahead and get into your new engine, which I believe you're calling the Candle Burns engine.
The Burning Candle.
The Burning Candle. Okay. Yeah, it's the Burning Candle. And it's tell me a little bit about it, but from what I've seen of it, you've kind of developed a pen and paper inspired rule set based on the D8, a D8 system instead of a D20 system. Is that okay? Yeah, just go ahead and tell us about it.
So a lot of the numbers or die being used in the game, we wanted to keep the numbers really low this time around. We kind of got, it was fun, and we got kind of comically high with Serpent and the Staglands with the dynamic dice roll amounts and dice sides. But we wanted an engine and the kind of a whole rule set revolved around kind of more practical tactics in combat. And to do that, we needed kind of lower numbers. And so we're using primarily D8s for damage roll and block chances and stuff. And the whole kind of engine revolves around time in a few different aspects. And so we kind of came up with the title for that. We recently had a blog post earlier that had details on our resting and healing system. And, to completely heal your characters, you now need to have time to rest, but with a very time-sensitive game where maybe you're on a mission or have some objective, that you can't rest too many times. They take days, and during these rests, you can be training or healing or doing random jobs if everybody else is fine. But that takes a lot of time away, and so you can only maybe heal once during a mission. So you kind of have to strategically do these things. And, of course, our combat system that we just talked about also has to do kind of with timing and time mechanics. And so there's a lot of time-based things happening in the Burning Candle rule set that we wanted to include, but all that kind of revolves around having a more focused and smaller die count. And so that's why we kind of came up with the mainly D8, and we use some D4s for modifiers and stuff. But yeah, it's a smaller number kind of system.
So is this like, kind of famously Fallout, for example, they were going to use GURPS or GURPS, however you want to say it. Mm-hmm. And then they ended up, for whatever reason, departing from that. And they actually developed an entire pen and paper role-playing game system, play tested it as a tabletop system, and then moved it over and adapted it for Fallout. Now, is your system that I guess polished as a P&P, pen and paper, or is it kind of, it just has some more pen and paper sensibilities, but you didn't do a full system that you could play at the table?
I think this would be extremely difficult probably to play at a table since so many things are time-based, namely combat. I think it'd be, with a lot of stopwatches, I suppose, you could probably pull this off. But
yeah, that'd be kind of, there's certain gamers that would appeal to, a bunch of people sitting around with stopwatches. Could you see the rules lawyers on that one? You didn't, my stopwatch isn't done yet or something. I don't know. Anyway, so
the grenade's still flying.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Funny. All right. So, and this brings up another point in the video. Now there's a video that you put out for Copper Dreams that is an alpha video that, some of the art assets are going to be updated, that sort of thing. But I saw as things are happening, there's actually digital representations of dice in the game. Now, is that something that's going to make it into the final game, or was that something just kind of fun for the demo video?
We think it'll probably be in the final game since the numbers are so low. It eventually kind of becomes second nature to figure out the challenge rules of what you're trying to, what those could be. But to hit a target, there's certain things you have to overcome, and those are static based on where they are in the environment. They don't roll against you to dodge or anything, and that kind of becomes second nature. And so it's kind of fun to see your like I was saying before, your small amount of dice roll and your numbers being in two different sets. We have like a blood die and a bone die. Well, that's our personal names for them, but there's a hit chance die and then a damage die that you can see immediately. And so you can kind of get that immediate, quick, nice feedback saying, this is what the challenge roll was based on these factors, and that pops up against your target. And then you get your dice, and you can kind of quickly see that. And we have a few different ways of dealing with that. There's depending on kind of the combat situation, there's one where you can just skip that, and when your player attacks or whatever, you don't even see the roll; it just happens, and then you can just continue the timeline of combat. Or there's one where it pauses for a couple seconds and goes, and then there's one where it pauses until you click. And so we have different variations depending on how you want that combat to kind of play out. If you're fighting a ton of enemies that you're just kind of wasting through, have the one where you play through. It's kind of like the DM kind of rolling for, 20 rats trying to attack the players. You're just going to roll 1d20, and if it's above 10, they swarm you, and if it's below, they don't.
Okay.
So it's kind of a typical situation that you could play out there.
All right, so there's already, because both of these games are RPGs, right? Serpent and Staglands, it's still going to be an RPG even with the new engine, and then Copper Dreams is I think you've described it as a cyber tactical RPG. So there's already enough flame wars over real time with pause versus turn based. So what, you're, as game developers, you're taking a risk and you're inviting criticism for yet another third wave. Not that there's other games that have gone different routes too, but why was this important enough to you to introduce yet another kind of method for resolving actions in combat? Like what does this bring positively to the game that it wouldn't have had any other way?
I think this brings a different level of strategy and tacticalness that maybe traditional turn-based doesn't have. And that was something we were really interested in exploring. There's a lot of new things you can think about, but it also controls the chaos of real-time with pause.
Say that again. It controls the chaos.
It controls the chaos of real-time with pause.
That's what I don't like about real-time with pause. I like to be methodical and to think. So this is interesting. So it's not quite turn-based, but it's not as chaotic either. That's what you're saying?
It shouldn't be chaotic at all. It allows you the opportunity to sit and think and to measure your actions, but it also adds a little bit of tension because things can happen outside of the control of your turn.
Right. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, trying to think of some games that might be similar, but there's interesting situations. So it becomes your turn, and you can see an opponent ready to fire a big weapon at one of your allies. And now you have the chance to maybe shoot at that opponent and interrupt them. And so maybe that ally has time to move as well. Or you can run and do something else or use an item in a different way. And so there's kind of a dynamic battlefield happening in real time, but you as the player are just getting turns at various times throughout it to do actions. And so you really don't have any kind of control on when you take that turn. You can just interrupt other people, and then you just try to make the best judgments possible during it.
Interesting. Okay, we're about to take us to a break. When we come back, another fascinating aspect is you've taken things to 3D. So I want to talk about that when we come back from the break. Also, Ninjerk from RPG Codex said, "Laugh out loud, to resolve an action in this system in pen and paper would probably require free body diagrams." So, so I just want to throw out that out there. Anyway, guys, we're going to take a quick break, not bake. And when we come back, we're going to have more with Joe and Hannah Williams of Wellnot Studios. Their new Burning Candle engine that is going to power the Serpent and the Staglands RPG expansion and the new Copper Dreams cyberpunk RPG when we come back with more on Shane Plays Radio.
Megawars.net. The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate battle of the galaxies. Grab your slot today in one of the most hotly anticipated indie games of 2015. Visit megawars.net and get options only available during our pre-sale event running now. Megawars.net.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions, Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.
Hey, we're back on Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. We're joined by Joe and Hannah Williams of Wellnot Studios, game developer couple extraordinaire. Before we get back to talking with them real quick, I wanted to remind everyone that we are doing a giveaway today. You can get 2 tickets for next weekend's Game It Forward gaming event, where they're going to be doing all kinds of cool tournaments and free games and all this stuff. And it's to raise money for teachers in Northwest Arkansas. But if you call 501-823-0965, you can just talk to my producer, tell him you want the tickets. He'll get your name and your email address. We'll get that information out to you. Or you can tweet me at Shane Plays, ShanePlays. Just tell me you want the tickets, and we'll get those out to you so you can game for a good cause. Now, back to more with the Wellnots, Joe and Hannah. So before the break, we were talking about changes to your game engine. You have a new Burning Candle game engine, which is going to power the Serpent and Staglands RPG expansion, and then also your new game, Copper Dreams, which is a cyberpunk RPG. Now, another big change, in addition to the fact that the strategic timing of everything is not real time with pause, and it's not turn-based. It's something else you've come out with that you think will help control the chaos of real time with pause. But another big change is you've gone 3D, whereas Serpent and Staglands, the engine there was 2-dimensional isometric. So, what does the 3D bring to the table? Why did you go that way? What do you think people will like about it, et cetera?
So, we love 2D, and we really liked working in that for Serpent. But the 3D was kind of a mandatory element that we needed to bring in for a lot of the mechanics we wanted to implement. So when we were working on A Fool's Banquet, one of the main things that we wanted to have were like authentically laid out castles, and then lots of like infiltration and heists, and it's kind of like a Draculan kind of world, and we our own spin on it would be a little more slow paced. You're not like a Belmont storming it or something, and you kind of use the estate to your advantage beforehand. And we needed an authentic castle for that, and we wanted to utilize height. And to do that, it'd be really limiting. And some isometric games do. I know Commandos used to when that was out, but it's very limiting when you have height involved to have a static camera and 2D assets. And so it was kind of inevitable. And we fought it briefly, but we even had 2D characters over a 3D environment for a little bit. But unfortunately, we had some issues with some of the other elements and getting all the lighting right and stuff. And you're
doing all of this yourselves in Unity, right? You're not using. You're doing this all from the ground up.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's Unity, correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, real quick, while I don't want to go in too deep into this, but have y'all looked into this new this game engine that Amazon's releasing?
Recently heard about that.
Yeah, do you have any opinion on that? Have you even looked at it enough to have one?
We've developed so much into Unity, and we're on such a time crunch as a small company. We haven't really been able to branch out into that, but we'd like to check it out. Hey, they're close by in Seattle. We could
there you go. Yeah, just drop in. Yeah. So, and then, as long as we're talking about game engines, why are you on Unity? I'm not saying Unity's bad. I'm just curious, like, why have you landed on Unity?
Well, I think when we were picking our engine, it was between Unreal and Unity, and I think we decided Unity seemed a little more easier to dive into on our limited time frame with Serpent and Staglands, and now we've invested a couple years in it. And, every engine has its quirks, and we've learned them, so it seems worth it to stick with it.
Okay. Well, cool. That's fair enough. Like I said, I'm not down on either. It seems like most developers these days are going with either Unreal or Unity. So, and then there's some that kind of do their own thing or whatever. But all right, so so you got a 3D game engine now that has height as part of the game dynamic, if you will. Height's going to come into play. And I've seen in the Cropper Dreams demo, like there's actually like shooting grappling hooks and shooting up the line and all that. Now, are you worried that, because like here's the thing, if like I've invested a lot of time in Serpent and Staglands, and so I've gotten used to Serpent, and I'm like, oh, here comes an expansion. Well, really, it's a whole new game. Or are you worried? And in fact, I had Mustad from Serpent and Staglands brought that up. He said, do you think that's going to be a bit jarring coming from the 2D art of the original game to go into 3D? Are you worried that you're going to turn, some people are like, hey, I wanted an expansion, but this is actually a whole new game. I mean, is that something you want to address?
And I think that is something we definitely thought about and considered, but we think this expansion is going to be so much more fun and have so many cool features, and also address some of the feedback from Serpent and Staglands, and we think it's going to be worth it. Okay.
All right. So, so you're counting on the positives outweighing the negatives, and there's always, in my opinion, it's like Amazon reviews. There's always one person who's going to love it no matter what, and there's always one person who's going to hate it no matter what. So I've heard some people say toss those two and go with everybody else. So, I don't know if that's how you think. You've always got that one person who, no matter what, they loves you, and then another person is like, it doesn't matter. You've offended their personal sensibilities, so they're just not going to like it no matter what. But right,
we've heard that some people are going to miss, the pixel art.
I'm going to miss the pixel. I'm not going to lie. I love the pixel art.
Well, we're using really low, really small textures for the models. If you think of something like the original, Metal Gear Solid or Vagrant Story or something, or some of those old PlayStation 1 games that kind of had a more, I guess it's not accurate to say, but pixel art mapped models, where we're still kind of doing that. We're playing to our strengths and keeping that style. It's just we're seeing a lot of it, and so it kind of masks itself. But if you zoom in, it's still, we're using actually the Serpent and the Staglands portraits right now in Copper Dreams for the model spaces.
Okay.
We're not changing. So it should be kind of consistent art style, and it'll be a little stylized.
Yeah, because you're actually taking, I guess, a bit of a risk, and success involves risk. Like I said, I'm not assigning whether this is good or bad. I'm just saying that there is some risk here, because one of the things that you got initial publicity for Serpent and Staglands was the art style. Everyone was like, Darklands. So they were kind of full, like really got a lot of visibility for that. Now, what I've seen of the Copper Dreams demo, you're not going to super high polished. There's still sort of a gritty old school feel to it, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Right. And this leads into another question from Mustad on RPG Codex. He said, the initial concept art of Copper Dreams seemed to have a kind of 80s neon purple yellow kind of art palette. The preview video seems to have a more of a kind of gray and muted art direction. Can you comment on this? Also, you mentioned how the preview had some placeholder initial 3D assets. So he was curious how different the final version will be compared to the preview. Because the art assets we're seeing now in the preview and the video are not the final art assets, correct?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was just kind of for her technical demos of development right now. And, like you said, that is all kind of like alpha art, but the style will kind of remain similar with the smaller textures. We just need to clean up, models and make those textures a little more bright. We probably won't go full full neon purple, if that's what he was wondering. We're going to keep it a little grounded yet.
So it's not going to be full on Blade Runner.
Yeah, the aesthetic for the Calitana, the city the game takes place on, it's kind of hard to describe. There is a metropolis, but it's a little more. I guess it's a little more gritty. There's kind of World War II kind of vibes for a lot of aesthetics. There's definitely a split in Earth's history of when this started and how all this came about. But it's like World War II, but there was also some space travel, and now you have like laser guns and.
I think there are going to be some neon elements, and I think it's like Blade Runner in that it's always raining and it's pretty gloomy and gritty, and a lot of the alpha art was reflecting that kind of gray sky appeal.
So, so you may have umbrellas with neon shafts. Is that what you're saying?
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So for my friend Matt Barton and our mutual acquaintance Matt, can you put in a neon rat somewhere in the game? That would make him happy.
Definitely.
Okay.
We're actually going to post to him that there are rats currently in the game that you can actually fight en masse now. I know that was missing from Serpent.
Yeah, I used to think he was joking around and making like sarcastic, but he really loves rats. He's all about the rat. So
yeah, he's on point with that.
No, rats he's not. In fact, he probably
necessary for an RPG.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, all right. So I want to talk a couple more things about the engine, and then we've still got to talk about your expansion and your new game. Now, your hit point system is changing. There's no hit points. It's a wounds or a conditions system where they kind of accumulate on you, and you don't actually have hit points. Is that correct?
That's right. It's a stackable ailment system.
Okay.
Not dissimilar to, I know the D6 game. There's a lot of tabletop RPGs that do this. It just hasn't been brought to CRPGs a lot. I think the HP system is so easy for, it's very easily computable and fast to work with. But there's a lot of like the D6 wound system, or I guess to a lesser degree, like the disposition kind of things, where you don't actually take damage. You just take, you accrue a bunch of ailments.
Right.
And so for damage for this game, you roll either 1d8 or 2d8s, at least from what we have planned now. And each of those numbers has a table associated with it with different kind of ailments that could happen based on, for Copper Dreams, the weapon that you're firing, and then your bullet type. And so there's a lot of funny things we've been putting in there for the 3 various degrees of ailments you can have before you end up dying if you take it.
So there is death. You can die.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So you have a set amount of ailments in these 3 categories, and if you take a maximum amount, you would die then. But you can accrue a lot of them, and then at the end of combat, some of them go away. If there's a lesser ailment, it goes away after a few actions. And so there's a kind of a nice flow to it. And then at the end of the combat, you're like, okay, how did I do there? I have 3 bullets in my head, and another guy is, charred. Okay, so now we probably should heal, and you do that to the best of your ability. And then throughout combat, it's kind of fun because you're not coming up with situations where you have a fighter with 1 HP and he's fighting at full capacity. Everybody is slowly getting drained of stamina, and when you take an ailment, it also brings down your attributes, or what we call virtues in the Burning Candle rule set. And so you're getting weaker and weaker as combat goes on, and you're getting hit. So
okay,
it kind of goes well with that lower die system being more practically tactical and strategic in combat, rather than just everybody circling each other and taking pot shots.
All right. Well, so far I'm eager to get my hands not only on that, but also the combat system that lets you control the chaos of real time with pause. We're going to have to take another break. When we come back, I want to get into the actual expansion and Copper Dreams. I'd like to spend more time on the engine, but time is a predator that stacks us all our lives, or stalks. What is there's some psychological condition where you say the wrong words. I can't remember what it is. It's like spoonerism or something. I've got it today. Anyway, I'm gonna pump one of our sponsors. We'll hit a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the actual expansion and Copper Dreams. But I want to mention Game Goblins and people. Just so you know, the Curse of Strahd adventure from D&D is coming out in a few weeks, but Game Goblins is actually getting it 2 weeks early because they're part of I think it's like the preferred vendor system or something like that with Wizards of the Coast. They're going to have this Friday, they're going to have Curse of Strahd in stock, and you can pre-order it, or, he said it's best to call and reserve a copy, but they're hoping to have enough that you can just drop in and pick it up. But anyway, that'll be in stock as of next Friday, on March 5th. Game Goblins. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there's plenty of room for exciting inventory and tables for play space. For all your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Hint, use that for Curse of Strahd. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Tell them Shane Plays sent you.
MegaWars.net. The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate battle of the galaxies. Grab your slot today in one of the most hotly anticipated indie games of 2015. Visit megawars.net and get options only available during our pre-sale event running now. megawars.net.
The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions, Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. We're talking with Joe and Hannah Williams of Wellnot Studios, game developers extraordinaire. They're doing an expansion for their Serpent and the Staglands RPG, and they have a new cyberpunk RPG called Copper Dreams that they're going to bring to us in the near future. So we've been talking about changes to the engine, their Burning Candle engine, and now we're going to talk about their two new games. I want to remind people you can always call into the show at 501-823-0965, and you can also tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. And don't forget we have a giveaway if you want some free tickets to the Game It Forward event in Northwest Arkansas next weekend. Then hit me up through either 501-823-0965 or tweet me at Shane Plays. So back to Joe and Hannah. Guys, we've got just a few minutes here left. Man, it always goes so quick. But speaking of stopwatches, and you were talking about the game's dynamic, you remember the girl, the gold watch and everything? Do you remember that show where the guy had the stopwatch, he could hit it and stop time? I so wish I had that when I was on the radio, because we run out of time every time. I have another question came in. Well, actually, this kind of leads into the Serpents and the Staglands expansion. Sivion, I hope I'm saying that right, from the RPG Codex said, will they keep the Staglands font for the expansion or spinoff? And he says he recalls that there was some complaining about it. So did you have any thoughts or anything on the font?
We'll definitely be changing the fonts to be high res.
Okay.
I think that's one of our main feedbacks, that pixel art fonts are difficult to read.
Okay, so there's that. Now, so what's happening? We have an expansion. We've talked about the game engine, and we know that the expansion itself, called A Fool's Banquet, is going to involve castles and sneaking into castles and that sort of thing. And people, if you haven't finished Serpent and the Staglands yet, there's spoilers here. So just, it's hard for Joe and Hannah to talk about what this game might be without throwing out some minor or major spoilers. So what would you like to tell us about what's going to be happening in the Fool's Banquet?
Well, basically, you're starting the game sailing to the east with one of the sons of Erline, who's the first person who talks to you in Serpent and the Staglands. So it's a continuation in that way. And you're going to the Lochivinian Isles, which the Lochivinians are one of the races in Serpent and the Staglands.
Right.
And you've been summoned there, and I don't want to reveal too much.
Yeah, there's certain, I'm not sure how far you've gotten in the game, but there's certain events that happen. I mean, the Moonlord was kind of the catalyst for them unknowingly. And so now you're kind of seeing the whole game in a different perspective, where the Serpent and the Staglands was kind of this Greek tragedy where nobody comes out on top, and everybody kind of
as things unfold. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, and now in the expansion, you're kind of seeing the fallout of that in a very mortal perspective, and everybody kind of thinks what happened in the Serpent and the Staglands is kind of almost a fairy tale. It's, you've been at sea for months. I don't want to reveal the ending, but something happens, and then the Moonlord's just kind of gone from the area, and now you're kind of seeing the reaction to that. And then there's a larger worldwide event that I don't know if that would be a spoiler or not, but that also happens indirectly due to what the Moonlord had done prior to that game starting. And so kind of a series of events that takes place, and now it's kind of a fun reaction to that from the mortal side of things. Yeah,
well, as Serpent and the Staglands unfolds, you find out, because you play as the Moonlord Nikolai, and in the original game. Now, in the expansion, do you feel comfortable sharing? It sounds like you're not playing as him. You're playing as a mortal?
He or she is with you, as is Lucian, the acolyte that's taking the Moonlord to the east. And you actually play as somebody they have on retainer. I'm sure there's a sexier word for that, but they have acolytes kind of spread out as kind of spies. And you, Lucian, trying to protect the Moonlord, doesn't really trust this host that you're going to, that has summoned him. And so you act as a spy to kind of figure out what's going on and who this host really is. He thinks it might be a different god. And so you kind of play this out now. And it's a little more Alice in Wonderlandy environment, and it's really fun. It's a neat area, and there's multi-species companions now. There's a lot of fun kind of goofy stuff we're able to add in. I think people really enjoy it.
So obviously the engine's changed, but one of the things that I like about Serpent Staglands is the feel of it, the feel of the world. So you're retaining that.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere and the feel of the world and the dialogue and the tone, that's all going to be the same, even if the art is a little different. Okay.
All right. So I guess the other question I would have on this is, and then, I want to get over to Copper Dreams for just a couple of minutes. What, a lot of the people are like, this is too hard at the beginning. Now, I personally don't agree with that, but there's a lot of people who I know play a lot of games that they felt it was really. Have you adjusted the game difficulty at all for the expansion, or are you like, nope, that's the game?
I mean, we're sticking. You don't really have the journal anymore. We're implementing a system where companions can take their own. You can select a companion to kind of take notes for you.
Okay.
And they put their own perspective on it, so it's kind of an unreliable narrator. And so we're kind of trolling the players for that. But we're keeping the difficulty. It's different now. This whole strategy with timing and positioning, all that really matters. So it's a different kind of difficulty, but there's no longer the difficulty of any kind of hand die that you might think might exist with a real time with pause. It's all, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard though.
Yeah. It'll probably be difficult.
So we first level characters will still need to beware of foxes. So
Yeah, don't punch boxes. Bring at least a frying pan or something.
Okay, there you go. All right, there you go. Have a weapon and a full party. So, okay, so real quick, boy, I hate how quick time goes. When we know that Copper Dreams is going to use this new engine, it's going to be cyberpunk. It's going to be a party-based RPG. When is your Kickstarter launching, and when do you foresee having the expansion out and Copper Dreams out?
Timeline for at least the expansion is when it's done. I think for now, we really want to make it something nice, and it's kind of bridging between Serpent the Staglands and the next big. I mean,
can we expect it this year?
We will announce it.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
We
all
just
right.
want to make sure.
Okay, what do we know when the Copper Dreams Kickstarter will go? Do you have an idea on that yet?
I think that's going to be pretty soon, sometime this spring.
Okay. Do you have ideas for any idea yet what stretch goals or like what the initial to get a copy of the game pledge level might be? And if you don't, that's fine. I'm just asking. I mean, I know it's ahead of the game. No pun intended.
I think we're keeping the goals. We have like 5 goals right now. We're keeping it pretty small, but we have some fun like 3D miniatures of characters in the game. And then, of course, we have our books again. We're actually, in a week, we're going to be building some more prototypes of the wood books that we're going to be shipping out with it. And those will be really cool. But I think it's probably going to be $15,
I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. That's better than average. So, and it'll also, I mean, we're looking at Steam and GOG and all that. Do you think it'll be the same?
Yeah, and then they all come with beta access now. So we're just universally giving that out and hoping to get people early.
All right, guys, I hate to do this. I got to wrap the show. Thank you so much for your time. I am really enjoying Serpents and Staglands. I always have like 3 different games going at the same time, so it takes me a long time to get through them. But I've put my Steam says 70 hours, which is not right because a lot of that's been paused and doing video editing and stuff like that for Let's Play. But I love the game, so I'm looking forward to what you bring out next.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. You're doing something different. And you're taking risks, and kudos to you. Thanks so much for being on, folks. Next week we're going to have Steve Jackson Games on of course, Munchkin and Jerps. The tweet of the week from Bruce Cordell of Monty Cook Games says, the ability to admit you don't know a lot about a topic outside your areas of focus instead of BSing ahead, that's a rare trait. Thanks so much for listening to Shane Plays Radio. And don't forget, we replay on Krypton Radio, kryptonradio.com. I'm out.